لأول لحظة في العمر ألقاه، فلو أدري الكلام لقلت أهواه. رفيق الساعة الأولى أنست به، فعشت بحب ما أوحى به الله. وسابقت الأحبة في تلاوته، وأنعم حين ألقاهم بلقياه. ولي شيخ إذا رتلت ألمحه، تقبلني من الإعجاب عيناه.
American Muslim, Miss Adiba Chowdhury. She's a 10th grade student here at the Islamic School of Irving. So please welcome Miss Adiba Chowdhury.
Hi, how are y'all doing? So I have this question for you guys, just a small question to start us all out. My question is, what comes to mind when you guys think of Ramadan? Now, most people tend to associate it with fasting, which is true in part, but that's not the whole story. See, from a young age, we're taught that if we don't apply our teachings from our religion in our daily lives, then there's no point. I mean, the belief is there, the belief has always been there. But what is the point if we don't show it through all of our actions and deeds? A primary example of this is the month of Ramadan. I mean, think about it. We spend hours a day refraining from eating and drinking. Well, a lot of Muslim countries overseas tend to slow down a bit during this month. Here in America, life is still going on the fast track. We don't have time to ditch school or work, and that can get sometimes really exhausting. It takes a lot of self-determination. You see your friend in front of you, and she offers you some chips, and some chips, and in the inside, you're having this sort of like mental breakdown. It's like, you know, one wouldn't hurt, and I'm kind of really hungry. You know, nobody's gonna see me. But on the outside, you're just like, nah, I'm fine. I'm not hungry. And this sort of test isn't just limited to food and drink. In Ramadan, in general, we tend to disconnect ourselves from material things, be it your favorite show, music, video games. We try to stay away from these things as much as possible. And being a 21st century teenager here in America makes it that much harder. And this isn't just material things. Not only do you have to stay away from things that you most likely enjoy every other month, you also have to constantly be aware of how you're acting around others. Every other month of the year, fighting and arguing is discouraged regardless, but especially so during Ramadan. And sometimes your families and friends can get really frustrating. Trust me, I live in this household with one older sister, two younger sisters, my mom, my grandparents, my aunt's two children, and my other aunt and her husband, and their newborn child. I know how frustrating it can get sometimes. But you always have to constantly pace yourself, take a deep breath. Remember how every other month of the year, we so easily let our anger and our emotions make us think irrationally. And it takes sacrifice and determination, but by the end of the month, we're strongly affected by this sort of hands-on lesson of abstinence and patience. Ramadan also teaches us to be more thankful. It serves as a sort of constant reminder. A few years ago, my father passed away, and that was a hard year for my family, to say the least. I used to get a lot of negative thoughts, and I just felt like it'd be easier to be just done with everything. But that Ramadan, it was different from other Ramadans with my father, to say the least, but, it was different from, to say the least, but that Ramadan, it felt like my family sort of had this spiritual awakening. We kind of became at peace with ourselves. It was like somebody dumped this metaphorical bucket of water on me, like, you know, I'm sorry, but get over yourself. Bad things happen to all of us, and the world isn't stopping for any of us. It's not going to help us back up. It's not going to put a Band-Aid on our knees. We have to put that by ourselves. You're only thinking about bad things that happen to you, when in reality you should be thinking about what you have instead of what you don't. At least I have a hardworking mom. At least I have a loving family. At least I have a household, education. The list doesn't end. Most people in this world don't have that luxury. Fasting constantly reminds me, at least when Ramadan is over, I can eat and drink freely again. A lot of people can't do that in this world. I start to appreciate and be thankful for what I have in my life and things I usually take for granted. In turn, this mindset also makes us more involved in our community. Our priorities change so that we put ourselves behind others. It isn't just a month of fixing oneself. Volunteering, donating, reaching out, Ramadan is unparalleled in good deeds. It can also bring the community a little closer. I started fasting for the first time back when I used to go to public school. And a lot of people would ask me why I wasn't eating. And mind you, I used to live in this small town in the middle of Texas where the only Muslim population was me and my family. So I used to think they would think I was weird and they'd like outcast me. So I used to make a lot of excuses like, oh, I'm not hungry, or I forgot my lunch at home, or I lost my sandwich on the way to school. And by the second week, my friends weren't buying those lame excuses anymore. So I came clean, I told them about Ramadan and the gist of fasting. And then I realized I wasn't sure why I was even hiding it in the first place, because they became extremely thoughtful around me. They started eating less when they were with me. They sat out with me during lunchtime in the cafeteria. And in fact, a lot of my friends even tried their own hand at fasting with me. And it's comforting to say the least. It's this experience I won't ever be able to truly explain to you guys, that even though we're a little bit different, they're appreciating our religion. And we are all in it together, kind of like this Iftar here today. Being a Muslim here in America isn't always the easiest, but the Ramadan experience here is this unique mixture of cultures and experiences. And in the beginning, I asked you guys, what is Ramadan? And I think I found that answer. It's a spiritual boot camp, a training for us, 1 month a year that affects our entire lives. It helps shape our Muslim identities, and is something I wouldn't trade in for the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The youth always have a way to put things into perspective for us. I'll share a humorous little Ramadan with you guys. Personally, one thing that I've really realized this Ramadan, I have a she's 11 months now, baby girl, and I never realized how many times I lick her baby food off of my fingers until Ramadan, when I was like, oh, nope. And I'm like, wow, so often I eat baby food. I didn't realize that. So now we will introduce our keynote speaker, one of my favorite speakers, Sheikh Abdul Nasser Jenga. He was born and raised here in Dallas. You may be able to hear a little bit of his Texas accent. After many years of study, he has earned numerous licenses in various Islamic sciences, and a BA and MA in Arabic, and a Master's in Islamic Studies. He has served as an instructor and curriculum advisor at the Islamic schools and universities, and he's the former imam of the Colleyville Mosque in the Dallas area, and the founding member and chairman of the Mansfield Islamic Center. Abdul Nasser is an instructor with the Bayina Institute, which is an intensive, unique Arabic institute here in Irving, and the founder and main instructor of the Qalam Institute. You can see them on YouTube. So he is here tonight to speak to us, and please join me in welcoming Abdul Nasser Jenga.
Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. I begin by praising and glorifying God Almighty and sending His peace and blessings and salutations upon all the beloved messengers and prophets of God. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I wanted to welcome everyone here for this beautiful event here tonight at the Islamic Center of Irving. I live just a little bit down the street in Irving, not too far from here, but Dallas has always been home, so I do feel very comfortable welcoming y'all here to the Islamic Center of Irving. It's a mosque that all of us call home. It's really a truly unique center and community where it doesn't matter where you're from in the Metroplex, Irving Masjid or the Islamic Center of Irving, ICI, is a place where everyone always feels welcome and everyone likes to frequent and visit. I know I'm here at least a couple of times a week, even though I do live in South Arlington, so I'm happy that all y'all could be here with us today and join us today in breaking fast and breaking bread and eating food with us. The time for breaking the fast is really drawing close. What that means is not only do I have to kind of wrap things up quickly, but it also means that I start to grow really anxious and excited as that time comes near. Another part of the beautiful Islamic tradition that we have is that when the hunger and the thirst is at its strongest, in those last couple of minutes, you know how like whenever you've gone through any type of a process, when you near the end, that's when your anxiety really, your patience starts to wear thin. And you start to become really anxious, anticipating the end of something. They call it senioritis. Kids get into the end of high school and they just can't wait to run out those doors. So whenever you've been waiting for something, you grow really anxious in the last, bit of time that you have left. When you're waiting for a flight, in those last 30 minutes, they're just absolute torture. And if it gets delayed another 5 minutes, everybody loses their mind all at once. Like the whole place just goes nuts. I've never seen anything like it. When that hunger and thirst is at the strongest in those last 5 minutes, that is a time that we set aside for supplication, for invocation, for prayer. That's those last 5 minutes, we set those aside to talk to God about what's troubling us, what's bothering us, what are we confused about, what are we worried about, what answers are we looking for? We set those 5 minutes aside for a one-on-one conversation with God. And it's sometimes, and in fact, I can say confidently, it's the most meaningful conversation you've ever had with God. Because you can feel that thirst, you can feel that hunger, but you're putting all that aside and investing all that energy into talking to God at that moment, and it's really powerful. So I'm going to keep things extremely short here. Mashallah, Imam Zia, who went before me, who's a lot more knowledgeable than I am and senior than myself, so I don't really feel the need to say much and follow up with much. He explained things extremely well. I just wanted to add one thing. The world that we live in right now, there's a lot of suffering, there's a lot of difficulty, there's a lot of pain in the world that we live in. I don't mean for this to be bringing everyone down, but I know that the people that are invited here are community leaders, faith-based leaders. They are, civic leaders, city leaders, community activists and leaders. And what motivates, what connects all of us together, regardless of whether you're in law enforcement or city government or leading a religious community, one thing that joins all of us together is that none of these lines of work, and you tell me if I'm wrong, none of these lines of work are exactly the most lucrative careers in the world. All right, these are not the most lucrative, these are not the most safest, they are not, I see law enforcement here, it's not the safest line of work, sometimes it's not the most lucrative line of work, it's definitely not the best for your health in terms of stress and rest and how you maintain your own sanity. It's very, very difficult. But the reason why you do what you do is because you're driven by something. You're motivated by something. And that something universally is to make the world that you live in a better place. You're driven by that fact. That not only do I want to make it a better place, but I believe that we can make it a better place. And you're driven by that fact. You're motivated by that. You've dedicated your life to it. Your family sacrificed by your side in order for you to achieve this dream, this universal human dream. That how can we make the world a better place? And I gave this a lot of thought today, just kind of thinking about what I wanted to say. And it just kind of occurred to me, it's not some revelation, it's not some, unique thought, but it occurred to me, it clicked for me, that when I look across the spectrum and I look throughout human history, anybody that brought a significant change and caused a positive change in the world, there is one quality and trait they possessed. They were willing to step out of their comfort zone. They were willing to inconvenience themselves. And to put it into more proper words, they were willing to sacrifice. They were willing to sacrifice. From a religious perspective, because that's my own background is religious studies and religious community leadership. When we read about the great prophets of God, from Abraham to Moses to Jesus to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when we talk about these great prophets and messengers, when you read their stories, you read about sacrifice. How much they were willing to sacrifice. Great, people throughout human history that have brought about a change in terms of human rights and civil rights and just bringing equality and fairness and justice to the world that we live in, they were willing to sacrifice. Look at the pain and the suffering and the difficulty in the world that we live in today, from environmental concerns to social issues to international issues that are going on. I mean, every single day, every single minute, you can check your phone, you can check Facebook, you can check the news and social media. And what do you see? You hear about suffering and destruction going on in the world that we live in. And we have to believe that we can make a positive change and a difference in the world we live in. Now, how does all of this lead back to Ramadan? Ramadan is a course, it is a curriculum. It is a faith-based course that we have in the Islamic tradition, and as you heard from Pastor Bob, that even in other traditions there is similar practice, that what it does is it teaches us on a daily basis, no matter where we live and what our circumstances are, it teaches us to inconvenience ourselves, to step out from our comfort zones, to step out of our routines, to become comfortable with the idea of change and sacrifice. And that leads to natural awareness and consciousness. And that's exactly what the Quran and the Islamic tradition tells us, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may develop a sense of consciousness. You may become more conscious human beings. And that's why we fast. And that's why we've asked you here today to be our guests with us and fast with us and break bread with us as well, to join in with us at least in this universal cause of raising awareness and consciousness, to become a more conscious society, a more conscious humanity that is aware of everything that's going on and be willing to sacrifice and inconvenience ourselves and step out of our comfort zones to make the world that we live in a better place. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of us. We again welcome everyone and we thank everyone for your support and for sitting with us and having this conversation with us. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you again to Sheikh Abdul Nasser. So at this time, just before we conclude, I know you guys are smelling the food now because I can smell it. We would like to just have our Dr. Ihab and our brother Shafi come to recognize a few of the organizations and institutions in the city of Irving and the greater DFW area, which have really made a huge impact on the Islamic Center of Irving and have been really positive contributions into the lives of the individuals that they serve. So, Brother Shafi, if you'll come.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon all of you. At this time, we would like to recognize few organizations. We want to take this opportunity to thank for their positive contribution and impact of the city of Irving and the greater DFW. First organization I would like to is Irving Cares. Irving Cares is a local agency that strives to assist Irving residents in need. They offer a variety of services that includes food pantry, rent and utility assistance, patient transportation program, and employment service program. On behalf of Islamic Center of Irving, we want to thank Irving Cares for its dedicated service to the citizens of Irving. We would like to present a donation towards their food pantry service. I request Ms. Teddy Story to come up and accept a donation of $3,000 on behalf of Islamic Center of Irving. Thank you. Next organization, we would like to recognize another great organization that is catering to the food needs of DFW area residents. Islamic Council of North America, in short ICNA Relief, a Dallas chapter recently opened a food pantry with the goal of alleviating the food hunger in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2013, ICNA Food Pantry collected almost 150,000 pounds of food and distributed to over 2,000 families in DFW. They serve an average of 85 families per week. We want to thank the great work of ICNA Relief and their food pantry for their great service to the individuals in need in DFW. I request Brother Zahid Hussain from ICNA, Operation Manager of ICNA Relief, Dallas, to come up to accept our donation of 10,000 pounds of food to the food pantry. Thank you. Next organization is Quest, the Quality Education of Students. It's a non-profit organization. Earlier this year, in June 2014, ICA sponsored a fun walk in partner with various organizations here to benefit the after-school program in City of ISD. We would like to invite Ms. Delia from Quest to accept a check of 25,000. I request Dr. Rides to come forward. I think he is the Secretary of Islamic Center of Irving. Do we have the guest here? Okay. And our lead, Brother Nuruddin, who is the lead for the after-school program from Islamic Center of Irving, to come forward. Thank you. We also want to show our support for 4 different DFW hospitals we have had the pleasure of working with through our Islam at Hospital program, a program developed to provide educational and social support for hospitals and the Muslim patients it serves. I request following individuals to come up. Mark Grace of Baylor Medical System. Mark Grace. Dan Baker of JPS. Doug Fox of Children's Medical Center. And Carlos of Parkland. Please accept our donations towards medical equipments in your hospitals. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you again to all of you for attending tonight's Iftar, community Iftar, and thank you for all that you do for the communities. We know that each one of you has a special purpose here. It is just about time for us to break our fast. We still have about 6 minutes, and at exactly 8:40, you'll notice a frenzy of Muslims running to, no, I'm just kidding, we're not going to do that. Please stay in your seats and stay calm. In a couple of minutes, you will hear the adhan, or the call to prayer. Some of you may have heard it before if you've been to our iftars before, and it is a call to all of the Muslims to go and pray, and it also means that it's time to break our fast, and so that's kind of our signal. When you hear it, you can begin eating your dates and your appetizers. I see there are some little mini samosas at the table. If you don't have any mini samosas, please look to the people to your right and left and ask them where they are. You can also drink your water, and some of the Muslim people that are here tonight may go to the prayer, the congregational prayers, and so you may see some people leaving to go and do that. When the adhan is called, you can also feel free to go to the buffet and help yourself, okay? We have a really yummy dinner tonight. all dinners are yummy when you've been fasting for 16 hours. So. On behalf of the Islamic Center of Irving, though, we would like to thank you for attending the Ramadan Iftar. We love hosting you every year, and we always look forward to seeing you, and hope that you'll come again next year. Thank you so much. Also, since we do have a few moments beforehand, please feel free to mingle, say hello, meet new people. There are a lot of very good people that are here tonight, so it's good networking as well, if you want to say hello. And I do want to just recognize really quick Jim Falk with the World Affairs Council and thank him for attending. He is here tonight. If you want to check out the World Affairs Council of DFW, worldaffairs.org, I think is their website. That's my husband's boss. Thank you guys.
طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داع أيها المبعوث فينا جئت بالأمر المطاع جئت شرفت المدينة مرحبا يا خير داع